Saying first, I just want to welcome everybody for taking the time to join us today. I know we have a lot of people that are eagerly awaiting the recording as well. So I'm excited to be able to talk about shipping and e-commerce and subscriptions with the two of you. So just as a means of introduction, I'd like to just start by saying everybody just kind of saying hello, who they are. So first off, my name is Matt Holman. I run growth and marketing at QPilot. It's a subscription software platform when you need subscriptions that can change. And Bobby, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Bobby Anderson. I'm an enterprise account executive at ShipperHQ. ShipperHQ is a rating management software that helps you manage and curate the shipping methods and service levels that your customers see in the cart and checkout.
Awesome. And I'm James Andrus, president of Renova Worldwide. We are a health and wellness company that markets and distributes the most important nutritional supplement in the world, Lightning.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think one of the reasons why we wanted to get together today is because there's a really interesting use case in how both ShipperHQ and QPilot have been used by Renova Worldwide. So just kind of broaching that as a subject. James originally came to us about 2 years ago with some unique problems around subscriptions. We were able to implement our solution to him, but run into some issues related to shipping and rates, and saw a really powerful need for an integration with ShipperHQ. So without getting too far down into the details of that, because that is what we're here to talk about. James, I would love for you to take just a moment and kind of explain to us a little bit more about Renova and your story.
Yeah. So Renova Worldwide has been around. Actually, next week we'll be coming up on our 3-year anniversary. So we're just getting started, but we've been able to do quite a bit in this short period of time. Just a brief history of the company. I mentioned briefly in my introduction that we market the most important nutritional supplement in the world, which we call Lightning. Lightning is an evolution of a formula that's been around for about 25 years and was put together by a gentleman who his wife had battled with mental illness for years and ended up taking her own life. And his 2 oldest children were battling with many of the same afflictions, and doctors told him there was nothing he could do about it. And he just needed to prepare himself for the inevitability that they would go down the same path. So he got to work and was inspired by, funnily enough, the animal feed industry, and recognized that with the proper ratios of nutrition, it could make a big difference in people's lives, especially in the arena of mental health. Since that time, we've evolved that formula from capsules that people are used to taking and turned it into Lightning, which looks like a pixie stick. It's just a sweet powder that you put on your tongue and is absorbed right through the cheeks and into the brain where it's most beneficial. So fast forward through there, we thought that warranted a new company, and Renova Worldwide was born back in May of 2019. And, we were founded actually as a network marketing company. So we relied on a field of distributors that were going to share this product with people. And one of the keys of really any nutritional supplement, but especially ours, was the importance of taking it regularly. And so we designed all of our products to be consumed on a monthly basis. And we thought, hey, a subscription program will fit really nicely with this, make it easier than ever for people to get their daily supplements sent to them on a recurring schedule. And so we launched with a software that fit our needs, but we started growing really rapidly. And we quickly recognized that the current solution we had in place would not support the growth that we were experiencing.
And so kind of getting into that, James. So talking about some of the restrictions that you're running into that, oh, no, that's fine. I'd like to hear more, specifically, because I'm familiar with the case, right? I'm familiar with a lot of that, but tell us around shipping, because I know that was one of the biggest issues, right? People were going to check out and place orders, whether they're in the US or somewhere else in the world. And what were some of the issues they were running into doing that?
Yeah, so our biggest challenge was we didn't have the flexibility that we knew we wanted. And so I would say flexibility and continuity were our two biggest challenges. So one, they didn't have the flexibility to indicate which rates that they wanted. And we had, products that were different sizes, and so required different solutions. Which product or which shipping method they would choose would depend on what product they picked, or number of products that they picked. I mean, there were a number of different intricacies that made it challenging. And then that also didn't connect on the back end. So the rates that they were displaying were not aligned with the rates that we were actually paying. And so
people were checking out, say they're buying a box of the Lightning, they are seeing that their shipping is going to cost them $20. It's hitting your back end and it's really 25. Or if it's an international order, it's like $50 and something changes and it's like $100. It's being like way off. I'm sorry, it looks like we lost you there just for a second.
Yeah, can you?
Oh yeah, we can hear you again.
Hear again? Okay. Yeah, that was weird. It just turned off and decided to reconnect. And you want to give me access to my video again real quick?
Yeah, there you go. Sorry.
No worries. So at this point, we had actually moved over our entire infrastructure to WordPress and WooCommerce. We had connected with you guys at QPilot by that point. And this international situation that was rapidly growing was quickly getting out of hand. We realized that we were losing money hand over fist in the international markets just with shipping. And it's because the solution that we had in place couldn't support what we needed it to do. And so that's when we reached out to you guys at QPilot, and you guys made the connection to ShipperHQ, which has ended up being a lifesaver. It's made all the difference for us.
Yeah, most businesses I talk to are really, really happy about converting customers to subscribers, but when you're losing, $20, $30 on shipping, that's not so great.
Right.
Bobby, I'd like to have you chime in here. So I mean, I'm pretty familiar with WordPress and how kind of messy a lot of the different shipping integrations can get to, but I'm sure you've seen tons of use cases where people are having some of the issues that James has described.
Yeah, the great point, Matt. So James is not exclusive in that experience, right? So I like to think of ShipperHQ as that one-stop shop for being able to curate and manage all those real-world things and problems that happen in the fulfillment space. So one of the things that Renova is relying on us now is multi-origin. So accounting for shipping methods from multiple ship from locations. And I think that's something that a lot of e-commerce merchants struggle with today. And can you share with me, James, like how is that kind of important to you guys in terms of what customers are seeing in the cart and checkout, and kind of reducing some of those customer service inquiries that I would imagine came through a lot, besides just, hey, we're losing money on shipping, but where else that's had some effect?
Yeah, so I think there's a little more, just a smidge more backstory I should give you guys as to how we got to that, because multi-origin was actually an addition down the road. When we originally launched ShipperHQ, we were able to thankfully consolidate several plugins down into one to provide our shipping rates in checkout, and then actually align them as well in subscriptions, because that was another disconnect that we were hoping to solve. Is if you checked out, just through the shop cart checkout process, you would get different rates as compared to when you were going through a subscription. And so we got a lot of people that were reaching out about that. And so we put together a solution that better aligned all of that. It was a consistent experience no matter how you checked out. And then also the rates aligned both on the front end when the customers checked out and on the back end when we were actually purchasing and printing those labels. But one of the things that we started getting feedback on was, yay, I love the continuity, but boo, I don't love the shipping rates. International shipping is spendy. I mean, there's no other way about it. It's spendy. And we were rapidly growing over in the European Union, and ended up making some connections with a fulfillment center over there. And we knew that we could save a bunch of money as a company and also the end consumer if we were able to fulfill directly from the European Union, as opposed to all of our shipping up until that point had been done in-house here in the US.
So you've got fulfillment center in Europe and a fulfillment center here in the US.
Correct.
And forgive me for the obvious question here. So multi-origin shipping really comes down to if I'm basically able to preset zones so that if I'm in the US or maybe Canada or something like that, I'm going to see fulfillment and rates based off of the US fulfillment center. But if I'm in the European Union, I'm going to see rates related to it being shipped from that fulfillment center, which is obviously going to be a lot cheaper if I'm shipping from France to France versus, Ohio to France.
For sure. Yeah. And we needed to have, I mean, man, there are so many little things that go on in the background that you don't think about that you have to align, because it's one thing to just present rates that say, okay, if I'm getting my order shipped to Germany, then it needs to come from our Austrian warehouse, versus if we're in Canada, it comes from our US warehouse. We also have to be able to indicate that if we run out of stock in the European warehouse, then we fulfill it from the US, and the rates need to reflect that as well.
So Bobby, that's something that ShipperHQ does. I already knew the multi-origin thing, but you're able to basically do a form of inventory control based on if it's selling out of here, it's now going to show that it's available here, but the shipping rates are going to be different because it's coming from that location. Is that right?
Yeah. So at a product level, we can assign more than one origin. So if inventory is out at a origin, we can potentially use another origin if it's assigned at that product level to fulfill.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then some of the ways it's being used with QPilot, right? So, we're talking a lot about the way the initial checkout is working, but being able to extend that experience to the subscription orders as well, is right, because you're having a product that's, life-saving, that people are taking it regularly because of how important it is to their mental, emotional well-being. So you need to be able to have some kind of predictability around how people are able to keep getting that, right? So can you talk a little bit more about how that combination between the flexibility and ShipperHQ has been helpful on subscriptions?
Yeah. So really as I mentioned before, the big inspiration for seeking out this additional solution was because there was a disconnect between shopping through checkout or shopping on subscription. And we wanted people to have that consistent experience no matter where they were. And we loved QPilot because it gave us the flexibility with subscriptions that we were looking for. We did a ton of research, and all too often we found a subscription solution where it was super easy to get in, but if you wanted to make a change or cancel your subscription, it was a nightmare. Whether that was go through 17 steps, or my least favorite, you have to actually reach out to support to have them cancel it for you. And so we wanted to be able to marry all of those different solutions. And so
now basically, yeah. So, I mean, just to kind of get into that flexibility a little bit for people I think sometimes people don't realize exactly how flexible we're talking on about a subscription order. It's like, if I'm ordering a sample pack on a subscription from Renova, and I decide I want to change that to a case because I'm now have my friends and family and everybody in my neighborhood on it, I can, within the subscription order, without having to contact customer support, I can change from a little bag to a case. And then thanks to ShipperHQ's integration, that's going to actually update accurately what shipping method would be available, where that's going to come from, and how much that's going to cost based on dimensionals and other rules you're setting up in the background. Like,
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
And people can move that forward if they decide they need to get it faster suddenly because they're going to run out sooner. They can get into even different shipping methods if they want them on a subscription order.
Yeah, and that's, you know, especially with the business model that we had where people were sharing regularly. I mean, the ability to change the date of your subscription or adjust quantities or change products based on the demand of the people that you're connecting with was hugely important. And then, you know, we had, you know, the trial packs here, which were free shipping. And then we also had rules where if you order over a certain amount, you got free shipping. And then, you know, all those different complexities that we talked about where depending on where you're going and how much you're getting, and, you know, we had to be able to configure all of that because as a startup, we're a small team, we're wearing lots of different hats and automating as much as we can. And also, you know, reducing bloat in regards to our tech stack, if you will, made all the difference for us and has really allowed this program to grow in a big way. So.
Yeah. Bobby, do you have anything else to add from the ShipperHQ side on how you've seen merchants like Renova or others in similar where they're able to solve some of those problems through a ShipperHQ solution?
Yeah, great question. I just didn't have a point for James before we get into it, though.
Oh, sure.
Because I try to put myself in the seat of my merchants' customers a lot, right? And one of the things that I see here is like, hey, subscription models can be a little bit scary as a potential customer, and having that sort of flexibility is kind of mind-blowing for a relatively young company, you know, that's kind of new to this this particular industry. I think it's great to see something so strong that amounts to that level of flexibility that I don't think isn't really easily found outside of what you guys are doing. So congrats on that. But to your point, Matt, about things that ShipperHQ that I've seen, multi-origin is a huge piece of what Renova is doing today, but not everyone has a need for that. I think the standout things for me are, hey, we're being able to facilitate rates for more than one carrier. We can account for those free shipping rules that are either the value of the cart driven by the product, or maybe driven by a geographic location. And the other kind of low-hanging fruit in the e-commerce world is estimated delivery dates. So being able to account for, hey, same-day cutoff times, or we're not shipping this during the weekend. Hey, customer service is getting hounded by someone who made that order at 7 o'clock on Friday for next day air and expects it on Monday. And that's just not going to happen in the real world. So, I always try to think about like, hey, where do we fit and where can we solve those problems that happen all the time? And those are the ones that kind of stand out for me. And it just comes up every single conversation.
Honestly, I always think of shipping as one of those things. You don't know how bad it is until you try to do it. So I'm sure anybody here is on the webinar, anybody's watching this video is trying to solve that. But like thinking about even with WordPress or even on a Shopify that does a lot to like unify plugins or apps on their platform. Like if you want to add FedEx and UPS and USPS, you're often using 3 different plugins that don't always communicate to each other. There's not always logic that's built in there to like help you choose between which one's going to get picked depending on use case. It becomes a bit of a mess, and that's an understatement. So again, it's one of those things. I know that anybody's listening to this knows how annoying it is. And so that's why I think the ShipperHQ solution is just so elegant, because you're able to wrap up so many problems in a single thing. And then being able to do that as well, not just in the shopping cart, but in the subscription, where we're trying as QPilot's mission is to try to make everything flexible and everything changeable, similar to how you would on a shopping cart. Well, you got to have ShipperHQ then if you want to resolve all those shipping issues and be able to offer a more consistent experience, like you mentioned, James.
Yeah, and having so many different options within ShipperHQ. I mean, there's a ton of functionality that we aren't even tapping into at this point, but that was hugely important for us. I mean, launching our company and then a year later having to completely overhaul our system because what we launched with wasn't scalable. I mean, that's been a real important point for us as we're identifying solutions is, are these going to be able to grow with us? and ShipperHQ and QPilot both do that beautifully. And so, having that flexibility to change, we launched with estimated delivery dates. The world got weird, and so we decided that we should move away from estimated delivery dates for a time. And just being able to go in there and flip of a button, turn that off, with very little work makes all the difference. So
that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So just throwing some numbers out there for everybody. Basically thinking about how successful you've been with the QPilot on subscriptions. I mean, I should say with your own subscription program. Since joining us, you've processed $3.5 million in revenue from subscription orders. 45,000 total subscriptions have been created through the platform, and you've seen 160% growth just in the last, well, I guess we're coming up on 2 years here, but a year and a half. So, that's kind of all for the planned portion of the webinar. So I just wanted to open it up to see if there are any questions from anybody here who's watching. And since it's a small group, you can be sure to get your question answered. I would ask a question. James, do you remember how many plugins you eliminated when you implemented ShipperHQ from the shipping side? 4 plugins. Wow. Yep. Okay, cool. That's really nice.
It is really nice.
I'm sure whoever's handling your technical side of things was really appreciated that simplification.
Sure.
Cool. Well, we'll give it another minute as I'm slowly winding down into saying goodbye, in case if there's any other questions from anybody. But first, I just wanted to take a moment to, again, thank you, James and Bobby, for taking the time to come here together and chat. Again, I think the innovation that ShipperHQ makes possible from a shipping standpoint just works so well with QPilot's mission on flexibility surrounding subscriptions. And I'm just happy to see just a great business thriving by being able to overcome those kind of technical limitations. So
looks like we do have one question.
Oh, maybe I'm not saying the chat then correctly. There we go. Okay. Okay. Can subscribers see the shipping rates change in real time?
Absolutely. Yep. Okay. As they make those changes to their subscription, whether that's changing products, adjusting quantities, all of that's configured so that when those changes are made, they can see those rates reflected right as they update their subscription.
That's awesome. Yeah. Does it work for large shipments as well, like on freight?
I can't speak to that from a personal use. I mean, we don't have any.
Bobby, does ShipperHQ work with freight too?
Yeah, so we do offer live LTL freight rates. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's pretty phenomenal. Again, thinking about like wholesale versus different use cases on the website, being able to manage all those.
It's actually good to know because we are expanding into the B2B space more. We're developing a healthcare practitioner platform, and they typically buy in larger quantities to sell in practices and things like that. And so that'll be good to take advantage of.
Well, that's funny because another question was actually related to like, what are you looking at other additional improvements on your shipping program for the future? So that sounds like one of them. Is there anything else that you have planned?
Yeah, we're doing some diversification, so expanding into other channels. And as we've been looking at that, one of the things we admire from other brands is a cohesive experience, as much as you can, regardless of which channel you're on. And so, one of the channels we just expanded onto was Amazon, and ShipperHQ does a great job of creating an Amazon-like shipping experience during checkout. And so we're thrilled that that's a part of that. But yeah, the biggest foray that we're going into next is the B2B space. We think there's a tremendous opportunity there. And so utilizing this to help tie all that together will be important.
I'm curious, are you going to be building a separate portal, or are you going to be managing that through your existing website, both using like user roles, or how are you going to be taking orders for that?
We are kind of in the process of scoping that out. What it's looking like is we'll build um, a separate website, but we'll still use ShipperHQ, WooCommerce,
Still using
ShipperHQ, QPilot.
Okay.
Yeah,
But make it specific for that use case. Okay, cool.
correct. Yep.
That's cool. Question from someone else is, what are people missing out on by not offering multiple shipping options at checkout? That's for either one, Bobby or James.
I'll speak first. Potential margin, potential revenue. So I just feel like customers want more options. If you're offering expedited options, maybe you don't get maybe 1 in 100 choose it, but you're eliminating that potential customer service call and then adding margin, because typically those expedited options are just your live negotiated rates with your carrier. So just passing that off and letting the customer pay for it if they need it and if they want it is huge.
Yeah, we found that to be true as well, especially with our products. If someone ran out a little earlier than they anticipated and they wanted to get it here, or what we get all the time is, hey, I am headed out of town and I need this product pronto. And so having the ability to just go in and pick an expedited rate and get it in there is a breeze. I mean, the majority of people don't take advantage of that, but thankfully that's been configured. And so it's not any extra work on our part for them to just go in and choose that other option.
I'm curious, how often does that happen on your platform? Do you have an idea of I'm assuming it's not necessarily a ton, but.
No, I would say we process about 1,500 orders a month. I would say we get a couple a month is all.
Okay. But still, that's still some people you're able to make happy without having to do any additional work on your side, right? I would say a big trend that I'm seeing in the space from the shipping side of things is people moving away from just free shipping defaulted on everything, so that they're actually showing different shipping rates, so that there's an implied value, right? Like you can have free shipping if you take the slow method, or the slow method is $5 or $10 flat rate shipping. And then, oh, hey, here's a 2 or 3 day option or a next day option, so that if you do decide you want to have that faster, it also does create, again, like an implied value on the free shipping, that you can see how much expedited shipping costs. You can make that choice for yourself, right?
I like that.
Yeah. Another question here. Let's see. Are there rules in ShipperHQ to change the cost of shipping rates, specifically related for subscription orders?
So I don't know if James, do you guys have something like that today?
We don't. Ours are currently mirrored, whether they're in a subscription or through checkout. We believe there is functionality to support that, though. We just don't take advantage of it currently.
Yeah, there sure is. So at the product level, we would assign a specific shipping group, and that shipping group could be subscription orders. So when the customer adds that magical item to the cart, rules take effect. So that could be free shipping, which I think you're doing with the trial packs, right? So when the customer adds a trial pack, they're getting free shipping. So we can do that and change what the customers are seeing. So ultimately, they pay the rate that we want them to pay.
Brilliant.
And then another question is related to subscription orders. Is QPilot or ShipperHQ seeing a trend where subscription orders are increasingly charging for shipping versus giving subscribers free shipping? On my side, I would say that yes and no. I think that the reason why free shipping is offered so much is while customer experience is one of the main reasons, the real reason is because of how hard it is to accurately charge for shipping on a subscription order. So if you're going to end up charging a flat rate every time, you might as well just build that into the cost of the product so that it's a little bit easier. So the idea that you're able to charge for shipping on a subscription order, that's kind of one of the reasons it's handled that way. However, where I see a lot of the trend taking place is related to food goods or perishable goods. is the ability to have a subscription order on something that might expire. You're able to charge for shipping because you're using something that's a little bit more costly. So like most subscription orders are using, like, say, a Mail Innovations, where it's like the cheapest and slowest method of possible, right? So my whole business is going to process my orders on the 19th, then you get it when you get it. And that part is changing, where if it's a product where people are showing an increased demand for, or it needs to arrive in a timely manner, like I can't ship chocolate in something that's going to take 10 days to get there. I need to be able to put that in a packet with a little cooler so it doesn't melt, especially in the summer or in hot regions. And if I'm doing that and shipping's costing me as a business $7 or $8, that can be harder to eat the cost of. And so there's ways to incentivize that, right? By getting people to pay more or have their orders be bigger so that there's more margin to cover the cost of free shipping, which is something that I think that's pretty common or prevalent. But the idea that people are able to charge for more I think it is changing. It's it's trending in that direction, but it's not necessarily going full swing just yet. And I don't know if either one of you want to chime in on that for trends on subscription orders and charging for shipping, but.
Yep, that was good.
Go ahead, Bobby.
No, I was just saying that was great. I'm in agreement with you. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know we personally have shied away from that on our subscriptions, aside from, if you meet a certain subtotal threshold, then you get free shipping, but that applies regardless of how you're checking out. But because shipping is such a huge piece, and because we are an international company, it's overly complex to, say, if you're in the US, then you can get free shipping, but if you're international, that's not the case. And so we've looked to other ways to build value for getting on a subscription and then staying on. And we've been quite successful in doing so, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it is just interesting to see e-commerce a few years ago, that huge trend, more and more to free shipping. And then now I think in general, it is coming back in the other direction, where it's really impossible for some businesses to operate that way. The margins aren't there. You need to be able to but again, it's more of a science, developing methods so that the cart, again, I think the option of showing different shipping options is really is growing in popularity, especially when you can show expected delivery dates, which is one of the reasons why I love that use case. Is actually how I was first introduced in ShipperHQ several years ago, was because of that. So I think that's something that Amazon has normalized. And so being able to show people that, though, you're seeing better conversion rates for businesses when they're able to offer more than just one shipping option. Even if they're charging for shipping, conversion is going up because of, again, that implied value between, like, say, a slower, cheaper, or free method versus a higher method that might actually cost money, and having that option.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, great. Those were some great questions. Again, I want to thank everybody that was able to make it live, and we'll be sharing the recording with a lot of people here just a bit. But again, Bobby and James, thanks a lot. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, agreed. Thanks so much for having me.
Let's do it again.
Absolutely.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks.